I live in a small town in upstate South Carolina. Nothing much happens here, so it seems with every story's beginning. Nevertheless, it's normal, right? I mean, the most spectacular thing that's happened here was probably when there was a new stop sign put up near Deerfield, or perhaps after the Masons started up a new church. Not much, I guess. My neighborhood's pretty quiet. I guess it's because there's no other kids around but me. I don't really mind it though. Besides, I'm a teenager now. Anyhow, enough about me. There's an old woman across the street from us. Her name is Susan. What a simple name, don't you think? She's a sweet lady though. Sometimes she'll call her home phone and happily chit-chat with my mom about random things. Also, every once in a while she'll come by and leave cookies or homemade caramels in our front porch, in return for my dad's mowing her lawn. We could never seem to be home when she dropped them off though. When we asked her about it, Susan would always say that she'd rung the doorbell, but we weren't home. Even so, the baked goods kept coming. Until one day, they just stopped. I wondered why. I really liked them. My father continued to mow her lawn, taking over his faded green John Deere to her house, so the grass wouldn't get too tall. Figured he was doing a good deed, since she was an old lady. After a couple of weeks, we hadn't heard from her. No more sweets, no more happy phone calls. The other neighbors started to get worried. One afternoon, we got a call from the guy beside us. He's Mr. Caldwell. He wanted us to know if we heard anything from Susan. Usually, her and my wife like to go shopping, but they haven't been to get together for 2 weeks now, he said. My dad was as clueless as he was. I'm sorry, but I don't really know. Sometimes she comes over and leaves us sweet stuff, or calls my wife to talk to her, but none of that has been happening. I sat at the kitchen table and picked at my food, not paying much attention to the green beans on my plate. I was too busy trying to figure out what was going on. I raised a brow and looked at my father. Miss Susan lives alone, right? You don't think... He waved his hand at me and cut me off, turning his back away, and went outside. I went over to the window and watched him cross over the road to her house, nodding before he put his cell phone into his back pocket. I saw him knock on the door several times before it opened, letting him inside. Little did I know, that would be the last time I'd see him. Hours passed, but I didn't think much about my father. I figured he and Susan were just having a nice conversation. Maybe she invited him to stay for dinner. Either way, I didn't care. The sunlight soon drifted away, and day turned into night. My father decided to call my dad and see when he was coming home. No answer. Hey sweetie, would you mind running over to Miss Susan's? Tell your father you should come home now. My mother poked her head through the door to my bedroom and smiled politely. Yeah, sure. I nodded and grabbed a coat from my closet. It was pretty dark outside, so I decided to take a flashlight. Looking back on it, I'm glad I did. I closed the front door behind me and stepped across the street to Susan's. I noticed the lights weren't on inside the house. After knocking on the door and ringing the bell once or twice, I waited silently for someone to answer. Hello? I called out. She was home, right? My dad was with her, I thought to myself. A few minutes passed and still no response. I hesitantly reached for the doorknob and gave it a turn. It was unlocked. I went inside and ran my hand against the walls, searching for the light switch. It felt cold in there. It made me uneasy. My heart sank when the lights didn't turn on once I found the switch. They flickered in and out before cutting off. I sucked in my breath and tried not to run away. My father and Susan were there. Miss Susan? Miss Susan? Dad? My voice cracked at first, rather feeble. You guys? I turned to the living room and looked up. To my dismay, a large, hulking figure was swaying back and forth from the chandelier. And I don't remember much after that, except for seeing Susan. She was smiling. What a nice old lady. "11:46 late last night, 2 bodies were found in a home off of 385 northbound towards Western Pine High School. One of the bodies, 16-year-old, was found with a flashlight clutched tightly in hand. His arms, however, were removed from his person, but were laying nearby. The other, said to be a relative, was found hanging from the chandelier. Both bodies' organs seemed to have been removed. Some remains were found in the kitchen oven and in bowls of what appeared to be dough. Police report that the house in which they were found had once belonged to a Miss Susan A. Ashworth. It has been declared since 2011. According to state records, authorities are unsure why they were there. The wife and mother of the bodies is reportedly missing.